Чернышov, who scored the winning goal against Scotland in a friendly in February. Manchester United's Andrei Kančelskis is here, and so too the gifted Alexei Mikhailichenko. It certainly isn't one of Wembley's largest crowds, but what has been gratifying, as Andy Gray and I walked round the ground earlier, to see so many youngsters here. And clearly they've been attracted to see how this youngish English side can do against the Soviet Union contingent that's been really restructured since their disappointing World Cup. Andy, good evening.
I think that's the fascinating thing about tonight, is we've got really two quite inexperienced international sides, two teams really going through transition with two new managers.
On the left, yes, we just saw Anatoly Bishevets on the left standing up there.
Yeah,
the
I
new
think we're seeing two teams, two new managers trying to make their own mark in international football. And I think that, for me, is a fascination about this tournament this week.
It's a mini competition along the lines of the recent Rouse Cup, but that trophy couldn't be put up as a prize. The terms for the Rouse Cup state Scotland must be involved. So the FA, in fact, have gone out and bought a brand new trophy, and the competition for it starts now. England defend the goal to the right. Tony Doриgo, who's out of contract now at Chelsea and seems likely to be with the new club at the start of next season. The Soviet Union only flew in yesterday evening. The majority of this revamped squad based in Moscow. As for England, still 6 matches to play this season, including tonight. Argentina here on Saturday, of course. Then the 4-game tour of Australia, New Zealand and Malaysia. Here's Kančelskis. Just one game for Manchester United away at Crystal Palace. Had some problems with the paperwork, getting the transfer completed. He's been bought by Alex Ferguson to play wide on the right for United next season, and that's where he started here tonight. A foul by David Platt, or a foul not given because the Soviets kept the ball. And goes Thomas a hunting.
The one thing I'm pretty sure about tonight, Martin, is that if this England side give this Soviet side as much space as they gave the Turkish side at the very end of last month, then they could be in for a torrid time tonight, because this Soviet side would really punish them, because they have some excellent players on show tonight with magnificent technical ability.
Like Mikhailichenko, who must be glad to be getting, he hopes, a full 90 minutes here. He's only been a substitute for Sampdoria over the last 2 or 3 months, which has surprised a lot of us. I questioned Anatoly Bishevets, the Soviet coach, about it last night, and he feels there might be a bit of player power going on in Italy, that Vialli and Mancini are worried about the competition, and they've perhaps, and this is only opinion I stress, have kept Mikhailichenko out of the starting lineup.
And just looking at the lineups earlier on, England quite predictably have got a pretty regiment 4-4-2. Looking at the Soviets, they have allocated number 5 Галямин to mark Ian Wright very tightly, number 4 Цвейба to mark Alan Smith up front, and the rest are playing about 4 or 5 in midfield, with just Igor Kolivanov up front on his own.
Here's Platt, good running by Thomas. This is encouraging for England. Smith's going to the far post, ball put in with a lot of pace, but perhaps not sufficient height to suit Smith. And Чернышов puts it behind for England's corner. Barns waiting by the near post. Ian Wright for the flick on. Mark Wright is there as well. Platt and Smith coming from deeper. Mark Wright almost getting to it. And it's not a bad effort from Thomas, who was at the hub of the move in the first place, that won the corner. Just had 45 minutes in Turkey. The referee, by the way, comes from Spain. It is Emilio Soriano Aladren, which is something of a mouthful, and if I refer to him as the Spanish referee, I hope you'll understand. Kolivanov. Tatashuk is the number 10. Here's Kolivanov, who's the top scorer in the Soviet League at the moment. They're about a third through their season, and he's got 11 goals at a goal a game. And Paul Parker might have a job keeping him under wraps.
I think that little movement there just showed you what could be in store for England tonight. Quite beautiful interpassing and good movement off the ball. So England are really, in midfield especially, got to be careful that they don't get overrun in there.
This is Kuznetsov, not to be confused with the player of the same name, who was such a key figure in the World Cup for the Soviet Union and in the team that got to the final of the European Championship. Well, the referee not stopping the play, and Barnes waits for Doриго. Smith and Ian Wright in the centre, and Mikhailchenko, who was the Soviet player down, is still rather licking his wounds, up near the halfway line. And now the referee has been prevailed upon to just have a look. Well, Barnes, as ever, when playing for England, finding that the expectations are high. Uvarov didn't really deal with it. And Mark Wright, but the goalkeeper was back in the correct place, although the whistle had gone. Well, what a season of desolation he's had with Derby County.
This event comes very close to capping what must be a tremendously proud night for himself. As always, England causing teams problems. I don't see much of an infringement there myself, to be honest. I think England are a little bit unlucky, but are always dangerous from corner kicks.
Well, that's the linesman, Peter Mikkelsen, who in fact was a World Cup referee as well, and a very good one.
That's as good a tackle as Ian Wright's had all season.
This is how it happened. Whoops! Mikkelsen, incidentally, will referee the Soviet Union against Argentina on Thursday. It's Barnes who helps it on. Uvarov in trouble. No foul given, when there might have been that time. Looked more obvious the infringement than the previous one.
And more like the Jeff Thomas of Crystal Palace. The first two corners, they stayed at edge of the box, but this time decided to go in, take a chance and gamble on the flick from John Barnes, and it so nearly paid off for them.
Alexander Uvarov, 31 years old. Well, Manchester United fans will be watching this young man with special interest tonight. Here's Mikhailchenko, Kulykov, and Šalimov on the left. A lot of players forward for the Soviet Union. Mark Wright meets it. Platt to Barnes for England. Platt. England trying to respond to Graham Taylor's wishes to play international football at a quick pace. Not to sacrifice the technique in doing that, but not to dwell too much in the middle of the field.
I'm a great believer in that, Martin. I think our success at club level over the years is always because we've played at a game at pace, and the European sides haven't liked that. And I've always been disappointed when national sides have committed the ultimate crime, really, and played to suit the team they're playing against. Cause them problems, that's my motto. Give them things to worry them.
Tatarchuk, who I last saw getting sent off in the Olympic final in 1988 in Seoul. But they won the gold medal even without him, and the coach, Bishovets, was in charge then. But here's Barnes trying to unsettle his plans. Platt. Gary Stevens back at right back. And Barnes gets a pretty free header. And I must say, the game has started in a very entertaining manner.
In a very positive manner from England's point of view. Super ball in from Gary Stevens. And that's a pretty poor header by John Barnes' standards. He has the space, as you see. The marking's not good. That's free header from about 8 yards. I would have expected John Barnes to have hit the target from there. But a good positive start from this English side.
And a well-driven cross by Gary Stevens that will make him feel at home. He hasn't played for England before under this regime. Last match was the game for 3rd and 4th place in the World Cup in Bari when England were beaten by Italy.
I think that's another reason why you can be sure there's going to be a little edge on this game from England's point of view. With people like Chris Woods, Gary Stevens, Paul Parker, Tony Doриgo trying to make the most of sometimes limited chances now.
Канчельскис. This is Kuznetsov, the scorer against Scotland. Mikhailichenko. Kolivanov. It's a lovely turn. Mikhailichenko. Tatashuk. It's out, deflected and in. A goal for the Soviet Union and a cruel one for Chris Woods and company to concede.
Yes, it is a cruel goal, but you couldn't help but admire the build-up play, could you? They had kept the ball for a long period of time. Tatashuk has a shot, and the new skipper is unfortunate enough to get in the way, leaving Chris Woods absolutely helpless. But I did say if you give this team room, then they're the type of team that will punish you. They get a bit of luck here. You see Chris Woods goes, he has it totally covered, and that's the kind of luck a goalkeeper doesn't need.
England 1 goal down with 9 minutes gone. Uайz. Well, when England scored against the Republic of Ireland here, there was a similar deflection off Steve Staunton. The goal was given by the FA to Lee Dixon, so let's be kind and give that one to Tatashuk, who had the shot, rather than debit the new captain.
I know I'd be claiming it.
But Kolivanov had played the ball in well from the right, steered down by Mikhailichenko, but Woods was totally committed. And really every indication that this will be a serious test for England and for Graham Taylor's unbeaten record to this point. It's his 7th international.
I think even this early you can see, Marty, can't you, at times how short England are getting caught in midfield. Not short in talent or skill or ability, but short of numbers. Because the Soviets have flooded the midfield area. And unless England push somebody from the back four into that area to help them, then it's going to be a tough night for people like Dennis Wise, David Platt, Jeff Thomas and John Barnes in particular.
Ian Wright chasing what looks as though it might be a lost cause, but he got the reward for his efforts, and England have a corner and maybe an opportunity here to strike back straight away. Dennis Wise, normally so deft with his delivery at the set pieces. Wise, of course, who made the winning goal for Wimbledon here against Liverpool in that cup final. Here he is, in just the sort of position he crossed for Sanchez then. And Thomas!
Well, it's half a chance for England, isn't it? Not a great chance from Jeff Thomas. But as you say, Dennis Wise, one of the reasons he's in this side is for what you say, his delivery from wide, his quality from that area. And as the ball came down, really Kuznetsov made it very difficult for Thomas.
Cveiba is the number 4. Mikhailichenko seems to have plenty of licence in this freewheeling midfield, but that's certainly not the best he can offer. Barns, Platt. David Platt, since the league season finished, took part in Aston Villa's tour to the Far East, a couple of games. 4 goals for Platt in those 2 matches. So he's lost none of his sharpness.
I think it's admirable that David should go and look to play in these games at the end of the season. But I do feel that when you're talking about England international, it might have been better for him just to have taken a couple of weeks to recharge his batteries, Martin, at a crucial time of the year for England and for his career.
Well, we are at a stage in the year, in a post-World Cup year, where it is often club versus country. And David Platt trying to serve both masters. Others like Ian Wright and Paul Parker have been able to have a few days' rest. Although Parker in particular wouldn't want too much rest. He's missed so much of Queen's Park Rangers season. Graham Taylor with the doctor, John Crane, for company. Cwejba wanted to play it out through Чернышов. Karlichenko trying to bring in Kančelskis, who has played here before for Dynamo Kiev in the pre-season Makita tournament and scored a goal against Porto back in 1989. Right. Hammering towards Smith. Well, it was a polite thank you, but I'm not quite sure that he appreciated the pace on the delivery then from the captain.
The idea was good. I think he just driven it a little bit too hard, but the idea was very, very good. There's a player causing England a few problems as well, looking at the formations earlier on, man. That's number 10, Tatarchuk. They're only playing with Kolivano, number 9, up front. You see how difficult that was to control. But what Tatarchuk, the number 10, is doing, he's just playing in the little hole in between him and the midfield and causing England some problems because he's finding himself free more often than not.
Yes, and basically England keeping their 4 back against Kolivanov. So it's going to need a bit of tactical astuteness. Doриго will love to get forward, but obviously might have some cautious feelings. It's only his second start for what we might call his adopted country.
Yeah, I think he's restricted a little bit in the fact that Kančelskis is really playing very wide right.
Parker for the moment keeping an eye on Kolivanov. Here's Kulьков. I must say it's a far more relaxed party from the Soviet Union than there would have been perhaps 10 or 12 years ago.
What surprised me when we were waiting for the coaches to come in, I expected them to all take off the bus with red tracksuits on with CCCP across the back of them, but would you believe it? Designer tracksuits on the lot. How times change.
Галямин is the number 5, only his 5th appearance for the Soviet Union tonight. Comes from the club that leads the league, the Army club in Moscow. Parker with England's free kick. Уваров punches it off the head of Mark Wright. Thomas gets it back and it's turned in by Alan Smith, who gets his first goal for England, and it's 1-1.
Well, your first goal's always very special in your country's colours, and Alan Smith will be a very, very proud man. Long free kick that causes the damage. The goalkeeper, Уваров, comes all the way, but it's a very poor punch. Jeff Thomas wastes no time, and that's just instinct. As a striker, he's not looking where the goals are, but he's got a rough idea, and all he's tried to do is steer it in, and you're ever so happy when they go into the top corner like that. This is a tremendous start to this game.
27 goals for Arsenal this season, Alan Smith, including one here, of course, in the FA Cup semi-final at the other end of the ground. But he's broken his duck for England, and he really was one of the few consistently successful players in the game in Turkey recently. He deserved to retain his spot, and he's repaid the manager's faith. It's interesting that his only appearances, this is his 7th, have come in the 2 Arsenal Championship winning seasons. In the intervening season, when Arsenal slackened off the pace, Smith came out of the spotlight. That's the way it's often for strikers. But this is a very good international game of football. Tatarchuk. Often, I think we've left Wembley occasions for friendly matches at this stage in the season a little less than satisfied, but that's not going to be the case tonight.
Yeah, too many players with something to play for.
Smith is up well. In comes Ian Wright and Platt. Gary Stevens had a look round to see whether he had time to control, which he did. Here's Uайz. Parker. Doриgo. Smith takes it from him. Barns. Everyone but Kolivanov back for the Soviet Union. Beautiful play. Barns to Dorigo. England coming in at the near post in the shape of Smith. And scrambled behind by Чернышов.
Certainly a more confident-looking move from England, wasn't it? Everyone wants to get involved here.
And where the Soviet Union are looking very vulnerable is in the air. The goal came that way with the goalkeeper not dealing with it decisively. Uайз has another chance to catch them out in that respect. But Mark Wright hoped some of his team were going behind him, which wasn't the case. The last time, let's just look again at the combination here between Barns and Dorigo.
Well, a lovely ball with outside his foot. Just here, I wonder if Tony Doриgo could have picked someone out. There's a lot of bodies in there, and coaches and managers do tend to tell people when they get in that position, just drive it across the edge of the 6-yard box and you might be lucky. But I always like to see people at this quality try and pick a player out, try and just drop it in someone's foot.
Coming up to 20 minutes gone in the opening international of this tournament for the England Challenge Cup. It's 1-1. You're watching the match live here on Sky Sports. Tartachuk with a shot that deflected off Mark Wright, giving the Soviet Union the lead. But Alan Smith of Arsenal has equalised. Kalichenko has to take the safe way out. The Soviet Union are in a difficult European Championship qualifying group, but they've made an encouraging start. Their main rivals are Italy, and they've already had a goalless draw in Italy. Their next game in the group is a week tomorrow against Cyprus. So they've got plenty of preparation, playing here and against Argentina at Old Trafford on Thursday. Barnes. Ian Wright, who's such a lively character, is trying to take it one step at a time in the England squad, not to be too impatient. But obviously, there aren't going to be too many games that Gary Lineker will miss, unless, of course, Graham Taylor leaves the previous captain out. So it is a big night for Ian Wright. Back from Platt. Remember, the players from the two cup final teams not considered for this squad. Or Gary Pallister of Manchester United, who played against Tottenham in the league last night. But Neil Webb, who can't get into the United side, is an England substitute here. Barnes, who enjoys being in the centre. And the Soviet Union slow to pick John Barnes up. It's an early cross from Uайz. Alan Smith tried to be first to it. David Platt was coming in a little deeper.
They may look very comfortable on the ball, the Soviets, but they certainly don't look too happy when they're having to defend these crosses from both sides. But England have got it together a little bit better now. They've tended to drag Dennis Uайz in a little bit to help David Platt and Jeff Thomas in the midfield, and that certainly helped them.
Kanchельskis. Fouled by Ian Wright. Kalichenko trying to trick Uайz, but not really executing the ploy properly. Kulykov. Kalichenko. Most of these Soviet players have been together at international level for just this season, but they have been kept together as a body, which will obviously help their cohesion. Kuznetsov. Tavachuk and Kanchельskis comes away with the ball. Possibilities here, and not another second cruel deflection. England must have been sweating them. Well, Barns is looking good, knowing as ever that everything he does in an England shirt is scrutinised. Uайz. Gary Stevens had gambled and gone ahead of Dennis Uайz. Here he is. Rайt. Parker. Uайz. He hasn't got a lot of weight to throw about.
He makes it count when he does, doesn't he, young Dennis? Great competitor.
England really have been judged under Graham Taylor on 2 counts. As far as results are concerned, well, certainly the judgment has been good, but it's the performances that have been open to criticism. Tavachuk. One-on-one against Rайt. They need the goalkeeper, and Tavachuk had just knocked it too far ahead.
You mentioned the fact at the beginning, Martin, how many kids are at Wembley tonight. And I just hope that they can maybe just take off English Castlewell, because there are some things about this Soviet side that as young kids they should be watching. The passing and movement off the ball in particular are absolutely joyful to watch at times.
Not quite so joyful there, the boot in the face that Alan Smith got from Чернышов, who apologised, as you saw. And Alan Smith is in the Gary Lineker class, not complaining.
I don't think he's ever been booked either, has he, Alan?
No, they're
Incredible.
absolute saints, the two of them.
I think I succumbed once or twice, a couple of bookings in my career, Mark.
Yes, I think you got their share, and probably a good few others as well. Here's Kanchельskis. Barnes in the left-back position momentarily, and Doриgo ahead of him. Platt making tracks through the middle, but Doриgo, I don't think, was trying to pick him out in any case. Šalimov, here's Tavachuk. Parker in. Smith. Barnes joining Wright in the centre, and it was a little stab cross really by Smith, aiming for Wright, and Wright recognised that. Doриgo. Thomas. 4 up for England. Platt is one of them. Kančelskis gets it back to Уваров. I'm sure viewers in the Manchester area will be encouraged to go along to Old Trafford on Thursday night to have another look at the Soviet Union in the flesh this time against an also very young Argentina side.
Well, you and I will be there.
This is Polivanov, Mikhailichenko. And if you can't get along, you will be able to see it on Thursday evening on Sky Sports. And of course we'll be back here at Wembley on Saturday. Цвейба. Here's Шалимов, who's been a key member of the Spartak Moscow side that got to the semi-finals of the European Cup and lost to Chris Waddle's Marseille. You can understand why Anatoly Bishevets has looked for his younger players. The previous generation had contributed so much and really began to look worn out come the last World Cup. But he had a group of youngsters who were European under-21 champions back in the autumn.
Yes, the previous Soviet side at times had threatened to win many things, didn't it? And always fell short, sometimes at the last hurdle.
Kulykov. Kartachuk. And it's a role that's bringing him some freedom. Dropping deep. He's up alongside Kolivanov now, but the ball tucked back by Gary Stevens. He's had an excellent season in Scotland with Rangers, as has Chris Woods. And Graham Taylor admitting yesterday that he hasn't really decided who his #1 goalkeeper is. There's only a hair's breadth between them, he says, in any case. And David Seaman isn't going to be allowed by his club Arsenal to go on the tour to the Southern Hemisphere, which may help Chris Woods.
Yeah, I spoke to Chris shortly after he'd been left out this side, Martin, and although he was very disappointed, he was also very determined. He was going to do everything in his power to make the #1 spot his own, and I think he's shown that determination, even after a long, hard season up in Scotland. His determination to go on this tour down to Australia and New Zealand shows how keen he is to win that spot back.
Shalimov's. And Parker just across. If there is anyone as quick as Des Walker to take over that #5 shirt, you're looking at him. And just to go back to Saturday here, it's still a really amazing irony that Des Walker, such a fervent Spurs fan as a boy, who must have dreamt about scoring the winning goal for Tottenham in an FA Cup final, and now has done it, but in terrible personal circumstances for him.
It actually wouldn't surprise me, Martin, knowing football and having been it for all those years, how it rewards you sometimes, and it may just say to Des Walker, your time will come, and it wouldn't surprise me if Des Walker's time to walk up those stairs and pick up the FA Cup is not too far away.
Well, he certainly deserves it, because he's been immaculate for England, and of course for Nottingham Forest. Kanchельskis. He looks very comfortable in possession and very happy to play wide on the right of midfield, which neither Neil Webb nor Michael Phelan are for Manchester United. Kolivanov. The facts and figures about England look pretty good. Only 2 defeats in 32 internationals. That's not including the penalty shootout in Turin.
You put that down as a draw, have you?
Wasn't it? It's a foul on Smith.
Certainly on merit, it sure was.
Dorigo waiting while England reposition as a squad. They've been together since Sunday, so they've had some opportunity to practice free kicks from different angles. Kolivanov. It really is a muggy evening now, and the game has been played at quite a speed. Ian Wright, who will always be quick. And Shalimov's recognised the danger.
You mentioned the heat and the pace of the game, Martin. I just wonder if the fact that the Soviets didn't arrive in this country until late last night, I know you were at the hotel waiting on them, whether that'll play any fact in the game.
Let me just put you right, I was waiting for them, I wasn't waiting on them.
Did I see on them?
There were 1 or 2 people serving their food apart from me. Yes, it could tell against them. As I say, they were very relaxed when they arrived. A lot of their players played in league matches on Saturday in the Soviet Union. 1 or 2, like Mikhailichenko, came from a little nearer to England. And they were very friendly, and if they'd wanted any extra waiting at table, I would have happily done it, but I wasn't required.
You'd do anything for a bit of information, wouldn't you?
That's absolutely true. Here's Kanchельskis. Good play from him. He's left Doриgo. And Шалимов coming unattended on the left. Mikhailichenko there if he rolls it inside. Шалимов didn't seem quite sure in his own mind what was the best option there.
But that again was an example of unselfish running from the Soviet side. They've all pulled the whole of the England defence over to the right and allowed Kanchельskis just to roll it into wide open space for Šalimov.
Tartashuk, the short corner. Mikhailichenko dropped deep to steal a yard of space. Alan Smith helping out. Kulykov. Oh, and it very nearly came back to him from Цвейба. Канчельскис. Doриgo preventing the corner. Канчельскis threw a little dummy then. It looked as though he was going to shoot, and then saw the sweeper Чернышов outside him. Канчельskis again. Цвейба. Good tackle by Barns. Way out for England at the moment. Kuznetsov to Šalimov. Tartashuk trying to take up a position through the centre. Now leaving Kolivanov there. Kuznetsov on the ball. Kulykov. England trying to force a mistake, but not very successfully. Tartashuk. Šalimov. Well, I thought for an instant we might have been on the verge of one of the great Wembley team goals. They pulled England about right and left, across the pitch. Platt and Thomas were in there hunting, and Uайz as well, to try and get the ball, but they couldn't. Oh, and a mistake here that's let right in. Until Чернышов recognised that he had to go for the ball, that he was reluctant to claim a bit earlier. Kulykov. Mikhailichenko. 9 minutes to go to half-time. England won, the Soviet Union won. Platt. Barns had Doриgo outside him, but Graham Taylor is very firm with his players about getting their shots in on goal.
Well, that's true. If you don't shoot, you never score. But I do feel that when a full-back makes a 60-yard run and gets that much space, you really should provide him with the ball.
Šalimov. Only 4 of the 18 players the Soviets have brought for this mini-tournament took part in the World Cup. Mikhailichenko would have done, but sadly for the Soviet Union, he damaged his shoulder close to the finals themselves and wasn't selected. Right. Doриgo, born in Melbourne, brought up in Adelaide.
Sounds like the qualifications needed to be an English cricketer, Martin.
Well, what he has shown is the value of youngsters writing for trials and having the confidence to make a career when the odds seem stacked against you. Ian Wright, who also came by an unusual route to this level. Kolivanov, although he is the one main striker to take on Graham Taylor and Laurie McMenamin's defenders, the England manager has come down to the bench, as you can see. Kuznetsov. Tartashuk. And the Soviet Union looking to pass their way through England's midfield. They're having some success. And what England do is have a lot of pace on the break themselves. Right, wrong footing, Doриgo. Tartashuk. Barns. Platt. And Alan Smith wasn't going to allow that just to roll through to the goalkeeper, and an argument between Уваров and Чернышов.
I think Чернышов is quite right there. You don't take unnecessary chances. You get rid of it and then you argue about it later.
Mark Wright. After 3 years, he was telling me, as captain at Derby County. Prior to that, it was the Oxford United youth team. He's had his trials and tribulations in his career. He's coming out on top of them. Platt trying to reach the ball as it was glanced on. Well, it's a match that does deserve a bigger Wembley crowd. How good it was to see the attendance at Walsall for the B game last night. A lovely little stadium, and it was close to capacity. There goes Kanchельskis, who's keeping Doриgo on his toes defensively. Mikhailchenko at the quickly taken free kick.
Although Graham Taylor may be a little concerned with the amount of space that the Soviets are having in the middle of midfield in that area, where I think he'll be quite pleased is when it's mattered. That's about 20 yards from Chris Wood's goals. England have defended very, very well, and have really restricted the Soviets in real chances.
Cwejba. The last time England played the Soviet Union was in the European Championship finals of 1988. Frankfurt. It was widely regarded as the poorest England performance under Bobby Robson. England already had lost 2 games in that final stages, you may well remember. And the Soviet Union actually won here in 1984. In between those 2 matches, a 1-0 win in Tbilisi just before the '86 World Cup finals with a goal from Chris Waddle. England indeed scheduled to play in the Soviet Union April next year. Here's Uайз. Hope to still be around in Graham Taylor's plans then. Oh, and Platt, that's a penalty. And David Platt has earned it, and he, I think, will take it, because there's no Gary Lineker, of course.
Just a prime example of trying to do too much in a difficult area. I think it is Чернышов that tries to work it out instead of just clearing it. And David Platt just pounced, and I don't think there can be any doubt there was a penalty, and even less doubt that he was going to take it.
Well, he's never taken a penalty for England before. He's never scored an England goal at Wembley before. But this is the perfect chance. And he does, 2-1. 2 minutes before half-time.
You see, it's all about putting teams under pressure. Connects that sender, look at David Platt, pounces on it. The contact's there, it may not have been much, but David Platt knows there's a penalty on the end of it if he goes down.
So England have turned it around in a very entertaining first half. It was Цвейба, I think, who caught David Platt after he'd just taken a stride past Mikhailichenko. There was some thought that David Platt might get the captaincy vacated by Gary Lineker. Well, he didn't get that, but he did get the other part of the job, the responsibility of taking the penalties. And you saw how quickly he picked the ball up to go and get it. He wanted to take it, and he was very confident that he would score. Back from Kuznetsov, and there's a lack of confidence at the moment about the Soviet Union. And England could really take a grip now, which would be slightly against the balance of the half. Half in which the Soviet Union have contributed greatly to the entertainment level. But you always feel England might make something from a corner. Uайз takes it. That's Mark Wright. Well, they're not discouraged playing the ball around on the edge of their own penalty area. It is half-time, and this relatively small crowd, fulsome in its appreciation of what they've seen here. An invigorating 45 minutes, which started badly for England, but finished well when David Platt converted the penalty after Alan Smith had got his first goal for his country, equalising the first goal of the match from the Soviet Union. A shot by Vladimir Tatarchuk that went in off Mark Wright. Another look again at the penalty incident here. And I don't think there was too much doubt as Cvejba went in. Platt seemed to feel the contact and settle for the fall. So at half-time at Wembley, it's England 2, the Soviet Union 1.
Especially when you're at Wembley. Actually, if David Platt goes to Italy, he'll be doing quite a few more of those on a Sunday afternoon.
You've been booked for it?
I've been booked, yes, but I've also been fouled many, many times in the penalty box, and the referee hasn't given a penalty.
Yes, that's a fair comment. That really is a fair point. Well, Wembley Stadium a little cooler now than it was at kick-off time. One of the hottest days of the year in London today. There they come, up the long walk as it is. You've done that a few times as well, Trevor.
Yes, it's still, well, not so much now. The only time I go up there is when I go to commentate at Wembley. But it was a great feeling, and I would think for one or two of those players, you know, no matter how many times you go up there, it's still a marvellous feeling. And I think that, you know, I've spoken about this game being a friendly game, but there's no such thing as a friendly when it comes to England. Every game is a big game, and it's a great honour to play for your country.
Stadium looks well too, doesn't it? Let's go back and rejoin our commentary team, Andy Gray and Martin Tyler.
Welcome back to Wembley. England just coming out to a great reception. And obviously, the penalty, we've had a look at it again here. Andy Gray, have you revised your thoughts?
No, I have not. I said at the time that I didn't think there was much contact. Nothing that I've seen here at half-time suggests anything other than that. There was a form of contact. I'm sure David Platt felt that. And as a footballer of some note would have known that there was a fair chance that a penalty would have been awarded had he gone down. And that was my reading of it then, and nothing I've seen has changed that one. I think the referee, slightly doubtful, but a definite penalty.
Yes, it looked, studying it over and over again, it as if Cveiba's left knee, which was raised, it wasn't the foot that he slid in with, that certainly didn't make any contact with David Platt, but he felt the left knee, Platt did, as he went over him. Down he went. Anyway, as a matter of record now, England lead 2-1 through that penalty. A touch of controversy, and the Soviet Union manager, who is, I think, traipsing a little along behind Graham Taylor and Laurie McMenemy, who are more anxious to get to their seat. Anatoly Bishevets was saying last night that these two countries here are united in controversy because both have suffered from the hand of Diego Maradona. Ours, of course, is well remembered from '86, and in 1990 Maradona should have been penalised for giving away a penalty when Argentina met the Soviet Union in that group game that Argentina eventually won 2-0. It was an amazing miss by the Swedish referee that night not to spot it. Here's Tatarchuk. Kuznetsov well forward. And David Platt well back.
Well, showing the other part of being a midfield player there, David Platt, wasn't he? Not only content to get up front and into the opponent's box, but quite prepared to chase back and get into his own box defensively.
Well, a cracking first half, and the game starting at the same pace in the second half. Well, England without the fearsome power of Stuart Pearce tonight. But Jeff Thomas takes them left-footed for Crystal Palace during the season. And, of course, Tony Doриgo scored a goal for Chelsea at Wembley to win the Zenith Data Systems Cup last season. And Doриgo can't repeat the feat.
Nice for England to practice, though. They can't rely on Stuart Pearce all the time. And they've got plenty out there. John Barns as well is also capable of scoring from that type of range.
Anatoly Bishevets on the left. Played 39 times for the Soviet Union, scored 15 goals. Played against England in 1968 when England and the Soviet Union were playing for third place in the European Championship. England won 2-0. And the Bishevets remembered Nobby Stiles. I'll say no more.
Does anyone ever forget him?
There is a Shalimov. Not quite with the striking pedigree of his international manager. Stevens. Cveiba. And Чернышов, who was just as culpable in the penalty as the player who brought Platt down, Cveiba. He lost his way badly. Uайз playing it into the channel that he hoped Ian Wright would fill. Kuznetsov. Kulьков. Галямин. That was a shame for the Soviet Union and for Kulьков in particular. He'd taken up a good forward position to try and bring others into the play, and he didn't get the support he was hoping for. Looked quite downcast when his layoff went astray. Parker. Can't be an easy day for Paul Parker with news that Queen's Park Rangers have sacked Don Howe today. Stevens. Smith calling for it early, and Stevens very nearly found him. Kuznetsov. Now Mikhailichenko. And good covering by Tony Doриго. Smith. They are a very fluid team, Andy, the Soviet Union. They've even got two potential sweepers out there, the numbers 2 and 4, who take it turn and turn about. And there's movement that is really easy on the eye, and it's been at times matched by some superb passing. But they trail by 2-1. Kolivanov can't lift it over Gary Stevens, who's there again. International football can be tight and tense and slow tempo with just the occasional electric change of pace. A patient game. But this has been much more at the tempo of a club match, and as we said earlier, that's very much in Graham Taylor's managerial philosophy.
As I think whereas the Soviets are quite happy to take 4, 5 and 6 passes across the back, what Graham Taylor actually wants is his back 4 to get it forward to the front men a little bit quicker at international level.
Well, it's going to be a substitution. Only 7 minutes into the second half. Tatarchuk, who will be, I'm sure, credited with the Soviet Union goal here, goes off to be replaced by another of this group of promising young players, Alexander Mostovoy from Spartak. Oh, lovely change of direction from Barns. Full 2 of them. He always seems to enjoy it more on the warmer evenings. Sean Barnes, always an uncomfortable figure at Anfield in January, with gloves and tights on sometimes. Mark Wright, and that's the goalkeepers. Oh, and he's thrown it against Thomas. And surely the referee must have blown in that Thomas got in the goalkeeper's way.
That little flash from John Barnes, it's just what we want him to do more often in an England jersey, isn't it? Just shows you what he's capable of.
Were you at Rangers when, was it the Dynamo Kiev goalkeeper Chanov threw the ball at Mark Falco?
No.
In a European game, and the goal was given?
Yeah, no, I wasn't there.
I think my memory is right on that. So maybe there's something that England can exploit with Uvarov here. Whistle's gone. Doриgo again with a show of initiative. He's been a very loyal understudy to Stuart Pearce. It's not an enviable job. Platt on appeal for handball. And Graham Taylor, to some extent, has rewarded loyalty in his selection tonight with Gary Stevens as well, who has always turned up. Smith, nearly another help it's on its way goal after Ian Wright had tried the first shot. Platt.
Yes, it was a little example of Ian Wright at his best, wasn't it? A wonderfully quick turn that just lost his defender totally. And Alan Smith so very nearly on the end of it.
Kulykov. Šalimov, who's Stayed mostly on the left-hand side. Mostovoy. Kulьков. Галямин. Oh, and Mostovoy! Chris Woods made an excellent save. He started to come and was very nearly caught out by his movement off his line. But he thrust up a hand and somehow kept the ball out. Oh, and Mikhailichenko couldn't take that in his stride.
Well, you say it was an excellent save. I thought it was a magnificent save. Mostovoy loses Dennis Wise. That's the problem. But look at that for instinct. That's a magnificent save. Mostovoy must think he scored here. Chris Woods is only 3 or 4 yards away from him. He headers it, he thinks it's in, and that's pure instinct.
Šalimov. Still plenty of life in the Soviet Union. Цвейба. Certainly England's pressing brought them the reward of the penalty, and of course another mistake done. Mikhailichenko. Only Kolivanov ahead of him, and he tries to get through beyond Paul Parker. It's a good contest, and the referee has given it against Parker, but where has he given it? It's a free kick on the edge.
Well, it's exactly where he says it was a free kick. I don't think it's there, I think it's there. It's very, very close, Martin, very close indeed. Paul Parker will be a relieved young man that he's gotten away with that.
We're 12 minutes into the second half. And the Soviet Union, even if they did get the rough end of that decision, still have a chance here to make it 2-2. They've set their own little wall to try and catch out Chris Woods, Mikhailichenko or Kolivanov. It's Kolivanov, deflected and just away from the goal, otherwise it might well have gone in.
Well, Dorigo deserves a big pat in the back for that, because it was his crucial deflection that really kept that from the top corner.
And suddenly, England have hit a really difficult spell in the match. Wright gets to it. This is Cveiba. Šalimov. Mikhailichenko. England trying to force them out. Šalimov. Beat 2 with the turn. If England do get it, they might well break. Platt, Wright. He didn't get very far. Here's Šalimov. Kolivanov. And now Kančelskis. Mikhailichenko coming in. And crossing well and catching his teammates a bit by surprise, Mostovoy. Well, in a way, it deserves something better at the end of it. And it's admirable play from the Soviet Union. And the free kick, well, but for Tony Doриgo there, Chris Woods could have been picking the ball out of the net.
Just lets you see a little bit of encroachment, but we'll let him away with that, considering the outcome.
Paul Parker's heart must have been in his mouth. Tony Doриgo rescued him in the end with getting in the way of the free kick, but Paul Parker gave away a penalty in the last game of the World Cup against Italy in Bari.
But the pass and run was something that had to be admired in that incident we've just seen, Martin.
And Kolivanov certainly showed a turn of pace. Šalimov. Kančelskis. And that's a corner. England trying to be a little too neat and, in fact, neat and untidy it was in the end. Away by Thomas, only right upfield. Against Galyamin, who's been a diligent marker. It's still 2-1 to England, when we've had two talking points involving a penalty that was given and one that wasn't. Mostovoy. Here's Kuznetsov. Strong defending by Cveiba. Kulykov. Another little give and go. And England have to funnel back once more. Mostovoy. And again, all the initiative and enterprise was there.
It is, and you can see what a hard night it is for England's quartet in midfield, Mark. When the midfield players from the Soviet Union make such wonderful forward runs, you really have to be very disciplined when you're defending that and follow them all the way.
What will be worrying the Soviets is that they've had an excellent 10 minutes or so. They've made chances, but they haven't got a goal to level it again. Played off well by Ian Wright, who now wants to get into the centre. He is there from the cross by Barns, but Уваров, who's a tall goalkeeper, isn't going to be taken out that way. Shalimovs. Mostovoy. Well, England probably will be reasonably happy if they're going to shoot from that range, but there was no one to prevent him getting in the shot.
Yeah, it's up to the back four at the moment, Mark, to stand strong, to stand tall, and make it as difficult as possible, and force the Soviets to shoot from that kind of range. But this is a good spell, once again, for the Soviets. But if England stop them scoring, that'll be the right time, because there's bound to be a time in this half when England themselves have a bit of pressure. And it may be then that they make the Soviets pay.
Well, maybe of all the opposition England have faced under Graham Taylor, this is the first real test of the other way of playing, the more European style, where there is a full contingent in midfield and few recognised forwards. But it's hard to predict in those formations where the attack's coming from, who they're coming from. Mostovoy intercepts. He's got Kolivanov to the left and Kančelskis on the right. The ball staying in off the corner flag. It's with Kolivanov, Shalimov, Mikhailichenko and Kulykov in the middle, and coming later on the scene, Kuznetsov. Gary Stevens got in the way well. Shalimov. Still Shalimov when Dennis Wise waved him on his way when he knocked the ball too far ahead.
It's the kind of game where I feel you can see the Soviets pressing like this, and then suddenly England are going to just turn the tide, go up the park and sneak another. It's got all the markings of that at the moment.
Uvarov sensibly not wanting to kick the ball long to play to England's strengths. And they're quite happy to begin the passes this deep. And they're being delivered well and supported well. Galyamin, in the end, stopped only unfairly. Mostovoy. Back came Platt. Barns. Right's turn, and Galyamin knew he was beaten then. And it's a yellow card. Wright wouldn't have been directly on course for goal, so the punishment here seemed to fit the crime to me.
Yeah, I think Galyamin knew he was going to get booked here. Again, it's another fabulous turn from Ian Wright. One of these hallmarks, and Galyamin, like most markers in Europe these days, they let one or the other go by, but never both.
Translation, please. Dorigo's free kick. Well, Smith actually found the ball a little lower than he would have liked when it arrived at him. Only head it down into the ground and comfortably through to the goalkeeper. Shalamoff, often an outlet on the left. But you do wonder, the Soviet Union have put so much into the opening 20 minutes of the second half on this steamy Wembley night, whether they can sustain it. Shалимов is coming off for Igor Kornеев. A midfield player also from the CSKA Army Club in Moscow. So those are the two changes permitted. This is a competitive match, so it's the normal substitution rules, 2 from 5. And fairly painful arrival for Kornеев. The attendance tonight, incidentally, 23,789. And they're certainly getting value for money, and they might see an England debut for David Batti. Oh, it's a proud moment for the Leeds United youngster, who was a substitute in Turkey but didn't get on, and was in the squad earlier in the season away to the Republic of Ireland. Kulykov, England leading 2-1. Cut out well by Parker. Alan Smith and David Platt's penalty, the England scorers in the first half after Tatarchuk had given the Soviet Union the lead. Oh, and Smith. Kuznetsov. Kornеев. For once, not quick movement around him. Kolivanov, in fact, was a bit sluggish off the mark. And now Peter Mikkelsen, the Danish linesman, signals for a double substitution for England. Dennis Wise and Ian Wright are going off. And it's the new and the old coming on, really. David Batti and Peter Birdzli. And Birdzli getting a terrific reception, recognition for what he's contributed to England. It's his 49th cap.
And I think just passing the message on Charlie Smith that he's going to play up there on his own. Baisley's come immediately to wide right and David Barry just inside, just to make numbers more even in that midfield area where England have suffered for long periods of tonight.
Well, Smith up on his own, immediately earned a free kick. Baisley crosses, and Jeff Thomas trying to take that with a side foot volley. It's going to be a corner. Galyamin, who was penalised for the foul on Smith, had stayed down with some Wembley cramp, I think.
Was that a sign of their late arrival last night, I wonder?
Most unusual for a team to come and play England less than 24 hours before the kick-off. No time for any proper training. They stayed in a hotel by Hyde Park, stretched their legs there today.
It's unusual when you realise what a strength-sapping pitch this Wembley surface really is as well.
So Peter Birdzli will take the corner in the absence of Wise. Well, it was Barns who helped it on. Thomas, Crystal Palace style, storming in.
Yes, he's certainly consistent in his attitude of wanting to get in there, is Jeff Thomas. When you have someone like like John Barnes in the near post, that's pure out the Liverpool locker. Baisley knows where to deliver it, and Thomas is always going to be looking to get on the end.
Galyamin. Here's Kuznetsov, but he's not going to get involved because Gary Stevens, whose athleticism has always been a very strong suit, came across very quickly indeed. Throw to the Soviet Union, who've done enough in the second half to equalise, but are still a goal adrift. Kornеев. Цвейба. Kuznetsov with the cross. Oh, Mostovoy, well, he pushed down Doриго. But he's shown plenty of attacking ideas, coming basically from midfield.
Basically a straight swap for Tartachuk, wasn't it, from that deep line position?
Smith. Thomas. Now Barnes. A night in which, on which rather, Graham Taylor is learning that much more about a wider variety of players. And let me remind you again that this is pretty much the best selection from the Soviet Union. They would have liked to have had a Leinikov. They've got Igor Dobrovolsky, their player of the year, in hand in this tournament. He is here. He's signed with Genoa but playing with Castellón in Spain. And he was complaining last night he was feeling a bit too tired to play tonight. But he will play at Old Trafford, I'm sure, on Thursday. And that alone should tempt you to go along. Baisley. Oh, and Platt's on his own through the middle. It took some finding, but Baisley managed that, and he wasn't quite on his own when the ball arrived, but defenders drawn away from Barnes. In goes Smith. Kornеев. Barns. Черnышов held him up. Thomas. Now Bэтти. He's very much a collector of the ball in midfield. He's been calming down a rather volatile temperament. And the Leeds United players will verify how much more mature he's been this season. Such a great season, of course, at Elland Road on their return to the First Division. Here's Barnes. Platt and Birdzli hope for the cross. No foul. Mikalichenko. England, though, looking strong. Thomas. What can Barnes do this time? Smith! Oh, it was a great cross. And Alan Smith knows it.
Well, Alan Smith will wonder how on earth he's not got his second goal in an England jersey. John Barnes delivers a perfect cross right on his head. It's got goal written all over it. And that's as poor a header as Alan Smith has had this season, I'm sure.
Mikalichenko. The word's getting around players now that you're in the commentary position, Andy, that their heading has to be of excellent quality to get the verdict from you.
I don't think I'm being unfair to Alan, and I'm sure after the game he'll be honest enough to admit that.
I'm sure too.
Here we see it again. John Barnes gets a good advantage from the referee here. Shakes the sweeper off and delivers a perfect cross right into the danger area. Watch this. It's a free header. He just tries to get it down too much. But England look a much better side with this double substitution. They look better balanced in midfield. They're competing better there now. They've got the extra man there, and now it's the Soviets that are having difficulty stemming England. You know, it's the kind of decision I wonder, as Graham Taylor's managerial career goes on, Mark, that he's going to have to be forced to make, say within 10, 15, 20 minutes of a game. And I think it's at times like that where he's got to prepare to make it.
Little margin for error, though, for England still. 2-1 in front. In this rip-roaring start to the competition for the England Challenge Cup. "12 minutes left. And Barnes, England do look as though they've got a powerful second wind. Thomas. Replace all divots, please.
The greenkeeper won't be happy with him.
So Jeff's obviously not a golfer. Birdzli. Oh, and Kuznetsov. The style of the Soviets does have that hint of vulnerability about it, because they are prepared to back their ability in every area of the pitch. Kornеев, and this is in the right area of the pitch from their point of view. Канчельскis on the ball. Kolivanov, well, if he'd been able to let it run, Kulьков was coming in on this near side, the far post from the cross.
Yes, I don't think he can blame Kolivanov, but really Kančelskis had all the pitch to look across and see Kulьков coming in there, and just to drop it in right at his feet. That was a glorious opportunity.
England have pulled everyone back. Галямин. Mostovoy. Корнеев. Oh, and Bэтти went in abrasively then. And the referee has only gone across to check on any damage on Mostovoy. David Bätti's walked away. Yes, they are a bit angry with him, and I think with some justification.
There's been a few first division players felt the full force of a David Bätti tackle this season. Here's the young man, his first international, just showing that he's going to be in there, he's not going to be messed around. That's good to see.
And remember all those doubters who felt that Stuart Pearce wouldn't be able to time his tackles in the international game, and how wrong that has proved to be. And I'm sure David Batti will select when and when not to go in with greater experience. Thomas has pulled back, an unfair turn. Ten minutes to go. Victory looming for England, but by no means certain even yet. Well, free kick taken, not exactly where the offence occurred, because Netsov, it's a corner off Stevens, who makes that very point. Cwejba. Well, it's still his foul on David Platt that's the difference between the two sides in conceding the penalty. A Georgian, Cwejba, who played for Dynamo Tbilisi, and when the political problems and the breakaway states started to happen in the Soviet Union, Cwejba was advised for his international football he better move somewhere else, so he went to the Ukraine to play for Dynamo Kiev. Kulykov. Mikalichenko might be feeling the absence of recent match practice. He sat perhaps too long, certainly too long for his point of view, on the Sampdoria bench. Just had 20 minutes in that lovely finale to the Sampdoria Championship against Lecce on Sunday, which I'm sure many of you saw on Sky Sports. Still one more season, one more Saturday to go, Sunday to go in the season in Italy. Kolyvanov. And Platt is there again.
That's good defending. Excellent defending. When your defence needs some help, they're looking for the midfield to be making runs back in there to help them. And David Platt was there.
Particularly when so many opposing midfield players are trying to get into the penalty area.
That's what I was saying about the extra responsibility against a team like the Soviets, when midfield players are getting forward, for the England midfield players to track them all the way back.
And the whistle's gone. And out of your picture, David Platt has gone charging off in the other direction that time. Only to be pulled back. No wonder Bari, from Italy, wanted to acquire Platt from Aston Villa. And Batti doing what he does best, getting to the ball first, although he couldn't ensure that England kept it. Mark Wright, closer and closer to a winning debut as captain, with Parker, a worthy lieutenant, alongside him, but that will surely be a talking point when the game is over, should the Soviet Union have had a penalty against Parker. Kolyvanov, Mikalichenko urging himself to one last run perhaps alongside Kolyvanov. It's behind Mikalichenko, it's stopped from being a corner by Woods. Just over 5 minutes left. David Batti for England. Now Doриgo. Barns, and again they've given him room in which to attack the goal, but recovered through Cvejba. Oh, Уваров didn't really read it up against the Wembley floodlights. It was a towering cross. And Gary Stevens was attracted in as well. Had he just held off, he might have found the ball pushed towards him. But Stevens with a throw. And Smith pushed down the Чернышов.
I think certainly a lot of these England players in early years, in early caps that they've got a future international careers, would have learned an awful lot from this match tonight against this team. You certainly couldn't have any cause for complaint if the Soviets were to grab an equaliser. They really have contributed enormously to tonight's entertainment.
Mostovoy. And Kanchельskis, who's been almost chained to the touchline on the right in both halves, showing the effects of the pace. And of course he hasn't had too many games while his transfer's been going through to Manchester United, certainly not at this level. Batti. Dorigo. Well, it's always important to judge a performance in the context in which it's given. And this, as we've been stressing, is a strong Soviet Union lineup. So a victory for England would be regarded as a major plus. It should be regarded as a major plus, particularly this much-changed England side.
Yeah, I think should be regarded as a fine victory if it happens, Martin, because as you say, this is a very, very strong and very good Soviet side. I think they've shown that tonight. But I think all England's pluses, or certainly most of them, have been at the back. I think in particular their back four, right along it, have been excellent defending. And with Chris Woods behind him, apart from his unlucky moment in the first half, he's shown a good clear pair of hands and produced an immense save when he had to. So a lot of the highlights have been at the back for me.
And David Platt has given his usual energetic performance in midfield. He's running to the right of Batti with Barnes to the left. Dorigo. Thomas outside him. He'll be pleased to get the full 90 minutes tonight, having been taken off at half-time in Turkey. Dorigo, good work by Platt. Batti peeling off him. Who's only ever scored one goal for Leeds. Platt, yes, 3-1! And that rounds the night off nicely. With 2 minutes to go. David Platt second. England 3, the Soviet Union 1.
Yes, and a real good build-up in which David Batti played a big part, but what a great first touch from David Platt. That gave him the opening, that gave him the opportunity. And he strikes a great shot from the edge of the box to give Uvarov no chance. But you see there, David Batti plays a big part, holds up well. Peter Beardsley just plays a lovely little ball into David Platt, turns, one touch, and it's in the bottom corner. That's a great finish.
24 goals for Aston Villa during the season. As I mentioned earlier, he's been away on tour and picked up 4 more goals. And 2 tonight for a midfield player. Well, it's an astonishing output.
And who am I to suggest at the beginning of the game that he should maybe have thought about taking a little rest? He looks so full of energy. Yes, and he has given a wonderful midfield performance at international level. He showed all the attributes you need. Not only scoring goals, but how many times have we spoke about him back in his own penalty area, helping his defence out.
6 goals for England, Platt has now. This is his 17th cap. He was a bonus in Italy, and Graham Taylor has built on that, and is building his team around David Platt, who will get the headlines. 2 goals for Platt, 1 for Alan Smith, as England's much-changed side has started this quest for the England Challenge Cup with a win. A prestigious win too.